Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jared, also known as the Game Master Chef, and in this video, I wanted to share some secrets. I wanted to share the top 5 secrets GMs all over the world use on a regular basis. So if you're ready for some insider knowledge, listen up nerd family, this is going to be awesome. So my first secret for you new GMs out there is don't force the story. This may sound pretty obvious to some of you, but I keep hearing of game masters and dungeon masters who are trying to guide their players into a certain outcome. Learning to be more flexible and not get too attached to what you've prepared is vital because it allows for a far more seamless experience, and it's actually a lot less work for you. Now, learning to be more flexible and get less attached to what you have in mind is going to be a lot more fun in the end. It creates more seamless experiences, and in the end, you actually do less prep work because you get to focus on the things that you need at hand, like I mentioned in my previous video, and it's going to be a lot more fun reacting to the ideas that your players have and adapting to what you didn't anticipate. Now, what sounds like a lot more fun? Presenting a story to the players and having it act out exactly the way that you expected it to, or being able to sit there and react creatively to situations you didn't realize your players could put you in. The second secret I want to share with you guys is the rules don't matter. What? Well, they do to a degree. They really do matter until they get in the way of the most important rule, which is the rule of cool. Now, of course, as a game master, one of your core responsibilities is enforcing the rules because you want it to be a level playing field for everyone. However, if you learn to tweak and adjust small things, especially to how you run and execute the game behind the screen, you're going to learn that you can really exponentially increase the fun everyone's having. Let me give you an example of this. I never track hit points, not exactly anyway. I use health bars, and the way that I do this is quite simple. You take a gridded piece of paper to keep all your session notes on, and you plan out in advance the amount of creatures and what their health bars are, and each square represents 10 hit points. I then round the numbers that my players give me to the nearest 5, and one line through a square equals 5 hit points, 2 lines, and that 10 hit points is consumed. Now, I'll be generous with my players, and depending on how close they are to a 10, if it's 8 or 9 hit points, I'll round it up to 10. If it's 7 or 6, I'll round it down to 5. This way, I know that my players can quickly give me numbers, I can quickly get that out of the way, and the main reason I do this is to enforce that rule of cool in a way, because what this allows me to do is it frees up so much brain space and calculation space for me to insert beautiful narrative descriptions to the combat, which makes it far more emotionally investing for the players, and therefore I feel like I'm providing a better experience that is far more fun for everyone. The third secret I want to share, and you may already have guessed at the start of this video, the dice can be fudged. I know. For some of you out there, you're strict. You really want to make sure that it's just by the dice all the time. But hear me out. I recently did an interview with the Dice Stormers at International D&D Day, and I was asked by Derek, do you ever fudge or cheat on your dice rolls? And my answer was,
how many times per session? Yeah, every time. It's one of the DM secrets that you have to be able to sometimes influence things so it doesn't go tragically wrong or too right.
Now, what I mean here is that I don't really do it all that often. But the way that I do approach this is that I never use it to outright kill a player, and I never use it to outright save a player. What I mean by this is that you need to pay attention to what's happening emotionally for your players. For example, I've had a player who, in a long-running campaign, who had built effectively one of the ultimate tanks I've ever seen. I gave him full plate armor at level 1, which was maybe a mistake, but I don't regret it. Now, this character was a mute character, which means they never spoke and they always acted out how they responded. So there was a few sessions in a row where we were having various combats and this player character was never getting hit. They had incredibly high AC, and even then they had a whole reserve of hit points that creatures would have to chip through, eventually being able to bring him close to death. Now, of course, I can use different ways to attack the character with spells, wisdom saving throws, intelligence saving throws, all of these other things. But it got to a stage where the player actually told me, he said, look, I don't think I really want to be this invulnerable character all the time. And that gave me an idea. I said, okay, no worries, I'll take care of it. So when the next combat broke out, I was able to fudge a few dice rolls and say, you actually get hit. And that suddenly had everybody on the edge of their seats because they wanted to know how this character was going to react to finally getting hit. So this put everybody on the edge of their seat. This gave that character, or rather that player, an opportunity to do something emotionally invested rather than just go, oh, I don't get hit again. This is what I mean by fudging dice rolls. Do it for story's sake, not for the sake of saving a player, not for the sake of purposefully killing a player. And of course, if a TPK just happens to come around because of a roll of bad luck, then that's when you don't fudge dice rolls. So use this secret wisely, use it sparingly, and I hope it becomes a tool in your arsenal that you draw on in the direst moments. The fourth secret I want to share with you guys is the illusion of choice. What I mean by this is that, of course, you can always plan a certain amount. You can decide that the players are going to a certain location, they're going to take a certain mode of transportation. On this mode of transportation are going to be NPCs, or there's going to be a certain event that happens, like an ambush. And this is a generic idea of what could happen when the players are moving from one location to another, because you know for certain that they're going to go there, but you don't know how they're going to get there. I used this example in my previous video in the Eberron setting. I had it in my mind that they were probably going to go by ship because one of the player characters came to the city of Shan on a ship and was probably going to be able to access that ship again readily availably. I had also given them two other options to take a lightning rail or the airship, so they effectively had three choices. Now, all I wanted to prep for this was they're going to meet some interesting NPCs along the way. These NPCs are going to divulge some cool information about the world and about the Mournlands, and hopefully give them some ideas about their quest. Of course, I wanted an ambush of some kind to happen because I like little combat encounters along the way. It's just my kind of default. And yeah, that's all I really needed to prep. And I had the idea that they were going to take the ship, but one of the players said, oh, there's lightning rails in this setting. Why don't we take that instead? We won't be able to do that in normal D&D. So that was it. The decision was made that they were going to take the lightning rail, and suddenly the ship's captain became the ticket stamper on the train. The crewmates were just other passengers traveling to and from wherever they were going. And the ambush that I had planned, as you may have seen in my previous video, ended up just being switched to a whole nother encounter altogether because I called out the name of the ghost carriage and they picked up this hook to investigate the haunted carriage. So I got all of those elements out, but they were just reskinned. Now, the players felt like that they made their own choice, and of course they did, but because my prep was built on the setting and the idea of what I wanted, it didn't end up being completely wasted. And of course, we come to the fifth and final secret, and this one is roll tables. Wow, it's not really a surprise if you've read any RPG content ever, but let me put it to you this way. Would you rather spend 30 minutes or so every prep session writing out a list of magic items, or specifically putting these magic items in key locations where your players may not even go, or fleshing out NPCs with detailed names and descriptions just on the off chance that they end up speaking to them? Or would it be easier for you to spend that 30 minutes, and would it be more effective for you to end up with short tables that have got items that you think are going to be useful, hopefully specifically catered to your player characters and their races and classes and complements them, NPCs that you can jot a few names down, and that way you're not having to think off the top of your head, perhaps a voice, a brief description of what they look like, and keep it kind of vague enough so that should you need to put a specific race or class or attach a certain element there, you can always change and swap out little details along the way. This is what I like to do. I like to have everything at hand. As I mentioned in my previous video, the mise en place principle of game mastering, which I've taken from chefing. I like to have all of these elements at hand ready so that I can pick and choose what I need and when I need it, such as magic items, locations, NPCs. These are kind of the main things, and even monsters. I don't typically spend a lot of time detailing out all of the combat information. I will have monster stat blocks ready in my OneNote file, ready to go, and then if and when combat breaks out, I'll write down basically just 3 or 4 things. I'll write down the name of the creature, the AC, the hit points, I'll do the hit point bar like I mentioned, and then I will probably just put the to hit of their main attack. The range is pretty much assumed for most things, and that's pretty much it. And then the damage dice. That's all I need. I need those like 4 or 5 things for every creature. If they have some kind of special ability or resistance, I can always look that up because that information's right there. But what I need is right at hand, those main things, and I will have that ready for the players as and when I need them. So to reinforce that point, just make sure that you're not spending time looking up or, flipping through books or anything like that. Try to keep as much information that you think you're going to need at hand already, because that minute that you spend going, what does that NPC look like or sound like? You've got one distracted player, and then that distracted player asks the other player, how does this spell work exactly? And then suddenly you're rating in players, and that's not really what you want to be doing. You want everybody to stay immersed at your table. There we have it, guys. My 5 game mastering secrets. I hope you don't disagree with my methods too much, but if you do, feel free to leave me a comment. I'd love to talk about it. If you found this video useful at all, please leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel. Of course, if you found any of this useful and you think somebody else might benefit from it, please share it around. The more people we have learning, the better games we have, and that's one of my ultimate goals. I want to have everybody playing this game, and I want the best games possible for everyone. So thank you once again, and I'll see you.